got a brand new show coming out next Monday night, January 10th, 2022, immediately following the season premiere of Street Outlaws, the original Street Outlaws show, the 405 guys, right, from Oklahoma City. Immediately following the season premiere of Street Outlaws on Discovery Channel, we will get to see the season premiere of Street Outlaws, Farmtruck, and AZN, a spinoff show. These guys built a huge brand on the back of that show, and it's a crazy thing to see them spin off and do their own thing. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, the ones, the onlys, Farmtruck and AZN. Maybe JT. There they are.
I was trying.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hell yeah, we're kind of intimidated.
What's up, guys?
This is such a polished show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Right.
man, we're impressed, man.
We have no idea what we're doing. Well, we're certainly trying.
It's taken a lot of time.
Yeah.
We're certainly trying, man. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Shout out to Lou for making this happen. It was good to see you guys a little bit at PRI. I want to touch on this. There's a long, long way to go. Again, thank you for being here. But can you, I don't know, maybe try to help us wrap our heads around how you guys feel? What's it feel like walking around PRI in 2022? I don't know if you guys had ever been to that event prior to the explosion of Street Outlaws.
Party.
Oh, no. I'm just talking about like many moons ago.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys know what it's like to be relative unknowns, right? I know that's a story that I tell a lot. Walking around the PRI show floor, just hoping and praying someone would be friendly to me. Please be nice to me. Please let me see one familiar face. It still hasn't happened 15 years later. But I saw multiple times, anytime I saw you two, there was a crowd of people stopping you on escalators. You're bouncing around. We could hardly talk because you've got a laundry list of appearances. I've known you cats for quite a while, Jeff, a long, long while. Is it hard to kind of quantify how this whole deal has happened? Is it a constant pinch myself type of thing?
Totally.
For us, it is. I don't know how the other guys have approached this or how. All right, can you hear us all right? First
Yes.
and foremost.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, I don't know how the other guys have received it. But for us, it's difficult for us to completely take it home, right? Like if you take it home, then it feeds your ego. It makes you believe, oh, this is us. We did it. We are famous for being famous, right? Like, and so we did it. We finally reached that point by being so average. Somebody noticed us, right? So it is weird. It's still weird every single time because at the end of the day, no matter how many people are saying they notice you, how many people are proud of you or whatsoever, you still have to go back to an empty hotel room, right, and put your dirty clothes in your luggage, right? So it's for us, it's a very cool job. It's an opportunity for us to meet a bunch of people we wouldn't normally get to meet, and they've opened doors for us that they don't normally open for the regular guy, which is unfortunate because they're just willing to take more risk on us for whatever reason that is. And that's a blessing, I guess.
I always say, we're regular guys with a cool job, and that's about as far as it goes. So.
Do you think that regular guy, and I know that it's no act, that we talked about this earlier in the show, like the NHRA, they just announced late last year that they're going to do some shootouts in 2022, and they're going to borrow some of the tricks of the cash days trade, and they're going to do call outs, right? So we're going to see Top Fuel and Funny Car guys calling each other out supposedly, or chip drawing. Very cool. But my kind of reaction to that was, man, if it ain't authentic, if it's not real, don't bring it. And I'm just curious, is that what you guys point to? Because this is no act. You guys are regular guys.
I think you're right. I think that if that doesn't translate well, it will affect their existing audience. They have a captive audience that's worked really well. We obviously we're separate. We're running parallel with one another. But you guys know that our audience is different than the NHRA audience, and there's a reason for that. So I think if NHRA is willing to attract our audience by doing that, okay, that they got to take some risk there. But I don't think that they're adding any more additional value to the people that already love NHRA.
I think it's a unique perspective, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the human element that's important in anything, and when you remove that and make it cookie cutter, the more human that you can put in it, the better the show is going to be.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that NHRA were going to start that, but I think that would be great for them.
It's going to be a different approach. Then you have to kind of also look at the other side of the coin. What if No Prep Kings begins to take some of NHRA's, and they have, right? Like everybody borrows things from everybody. But what if No Prep says, we're gonna more streamline it. We're gonna tighten
Qualify
things
them or whatever.
right?
Yeah.
We're gonna quantify them. What if we usher in the drivers and you can't get autographs when you want them? What if you can't see them in the pits? What if you're buying merch through a third party person taking a cut of the merch, right? What if they begin putting some NHRA spins and twists on their approach? Is that going to improve it? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So I just am not, my hands and feet aren't in both of the businesses enough to know.
I think it all boils down to being authentic. Like, it has to be real. Like, that's one of my biggest fears, that like the NHRA introduces something like this and they get in everybody's ear and be like, hey, go out there and kind of act like a dick.
You're right
go out there and it's like, hey, if this isn't a real thing, if it's not like WWE works, but those people know that they're in on the joke.
That's right.
And that doesn't exist in pro level drag racing. So to your point a minute ago, Farm Truck, about the human element, one of the things that I've really appreciated about both of you guys specifically, and there's obviously a lot of incredible human beings on the show. I remember when we put you guys on the cover of the magazine, which has been a really long time ago, but like everybody was so great and so friendly. And I was blown away by like, man, these guys are legit rock stars in our sport right now around the world. And you guys were all gracious and wonderful to work with. But one of the things I've noticed about you two specifically is that you've really, you've gone all in on this, right? I mean, you guys have completely done all the appearances, showing up at races, hosting events of your own, all sorts of branding endeavors, beef jerky, merch, whatever, you guys went all in on that. Is there, and I'm very bad about turning every one of these shows into like a life lesson thing.
I like it. No, I like it.
But I do think that a lot of racers watch this and they expect to watch and learn, right? Or maybe garner a little bit of wisdom or whatever. I'm just curious, was there a day that the two of you sat down and said, hey, we're making a conscious decision. I'm Farm Truck, you're Asian forevermore, and we are going in on this, right? Because I think some of the racers like in the NHRA, in the PDRA, in these other sanction and series, that they get frustrated because they don't get all the hype and the love or whatever, but they're running a business through the week. They're running their repair shop. They're running their contracting company. They're not doing appearances. They're not talking crap on the internet or whatever. Was there a moment that you guys made that decision?
No, there wasn't a moment like that. Basically what it came down to is we have always been all in all the time, no matter what we've done. I've done a lot of carpentry before the show, and Asian was a sign guy. Well, he was 100% in on the signs, and I was 100% in on the carpentry. So whenever we got together and we were going to do this show, it was never a question. It's all out or nothing.
Yeah, I think, and like you said, Wes, not to get too philosophical, but we are who we are from the beginning, from the womb to the casket. We are who we are. And I think that, when these guys begin feeling left out, they begin feeling like, well, why I should go harder on this. I should quit my day job, or I should maybe just quit racing because I'm not good at it. The question isn't whether you need to stick with what you're good at, but you need to bring people into your team that are good at what they're doing. Farm Truck is good with seeing the big picture. He's good at seeing the creative. He's good at putting together these ideas and making them happen. I'm good at the business. I'm good at seeing how to capitalize on these opportunities. How to be better influencers, how to improve how we can communicate our message to the rest of the world. That's what we're good at. We've always been good at it. I've been communication, and Farm Truck has been hands-on, hard work, grind it to a fine powder.
But the key to success, we didn't realize, we've known this all along, but we didn't simplify it. And to simplify it is you have to obsess over what you do. Any sports figure, any race car driver, they all obsess, and that's all they think about. That's all they do. And eventually they become successful.
It's true, because you guys already have courage. You guys are already going fast and doing stupid stuff. You have courage. So it's not like you're scared of anything.
That's right.
You just need the people around you to also have the courage to do what they're doing for you. So I think if you're missing that element and you're like, you can't find it in yourself, you got to hire them. You got to hire them, bring them on, make them business partners, get your wife involved, get your kids involved. If you don't have time to mow the lawn, you got to hire somebody. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
It's a great point, man. I mean, it really is a great point. And it's funny because there's been, that's a survey. There are people in our industry that that's how they make their living. Like, hey, if you're not comfortable tooting your own horn, one of my favorite sayings is, if you don't toot your own horn, you can't complain when there's no music, right? It's not a quote it's not my quote, but it's a quote that I've borrowed from many moons ago, but I think it rings true, right? And if you're not capable of doing it, you probably better hire someone to do it. You probably better get somebody else on board. I got a little bit of a personal question, because this is something that I struggle with. Do you guys, putting yourself out there so consistently and like living with the consequences? I know that I have times and I'll be transparent. People know me for like wearing my heart on my shirt sleeve. Even on this show, every Wednesday, I get a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, and I go, nobody cares what I have to say. What am I doing? My God. I don't, who am I to tell everybody how it needs to be? And I have to like pump myself up or take a shot of Stoli. I got to get myself over the hump to do it pretty much every week. How have you guys combated that? Because I know, like, personally, I'm horrible with my own social media. Like, everybody on my team is like, dude, you got to hire somebody. Like, people want to know. And I'm like, no, they don't. Nobody cares what I'm doing. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, they do. So how have you guys embraced that? I mean, for me, it's been a huge challenge. I don't know that it is for everybody. Based on some people's social media, it's no challenge at all. But how have you guys handled that?
Well, it's totally been a challenge for us. But Asian and I, we've always been able to bounce things off of each other. Whenever I'm down, he's up. And, vice versa. He's the business, he's the internet guy, I'm the wrench. And we're able to keep things going. A lot of times we'll be struggling with something and on a build, and we'll be trying to figure out exactly how to do it. And then you get a fresh young mind that walks in the door like Asian that doesn't know much about building anything. And he says, hey, why don't you just drill a hole right down through the top, and then patch the hole later, and why don't we, and, there's been plenty of times when he's been designing a t-shirt or a flyer, and, I've walked in and I've seen the obvious. And should we put the date on that flyer when we're going to be there? And, we're always helping each other along. So we're grateful for each other, that we can keep each other in check.
So you got to have that team that always sees the inspiring side of you, the reason they got the job, the reason that they started working for you, the whole reason they still stick around. Lou is a good example of that. He is inspired for reasons we don't know, and he keeps us in check and says, all right, guys, today we got to do this. And to go back to what you were saying, you're saying it takes courage to get up on the mic. It takes courage to stand in front of the camera and say, okay, what I'm saying might be important. Half of it's true. Half of the people in the world don't give a crap about you, and they don't. And that can be a fact. That can be okay. Okay, so half the world isn't going to give a crap about me. That's okay. But the other half will. They will give a crap. And some of those just haven't found you yet. And you know what, man? There's not enough people with courage. It is your responsibility, right? Just like when you see someone broke down on the side of the road, well, there's a lot of people that can help them. Well, what if they don't like my help? Well, what if they already have help? What if they already called somebody? No, you got to stop. It's now your responsibility to stop and check on them. So it's our responsibility now to get in front of the camera, get in front of the microphone, tell our story, because there's people relying on us because they don't have the courage to do it themselves.
That's wow, that's great.
Jeez Louise. I think we may just want to shut this thing down. Yeah. Like, okay, guys, thanks for being here. No, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, that was fantastic. I mean, but I appreciate it, man. And it's something people are giving me a hard time in the comments, but it's true, man. I mean, it does require some courage, and it does take a team.
It's like a yin and yang approach. Wes and I say that all the time.
like he had to drag us onto the show, right, T? I mean, because Wes loves to do this, and he's like, "You guys got to get on this show." We're focused on other parts of the business, and that's what we thrive on. He thrives on this, but yet it takes some.
Well, it's a great segue.
We've got to have Wes's input on stuff we're doing, and then adding us to the show has helped him, I think. So it takes all kinds.
Because it's interesting, because the pitch that I made to Mike specifically, JT's been my partner in crime on the show since we started, since the very first time we went live on Facebook. But Mike is always like, no, I'm a behind the scenes guy. And I'm like, no, we have to have you in front of the camera. Like, and I preach this to salespeople, anybody that'll listen. Like, the quicker you become famous in your industry, the quicker you'll be successful, right? And the more successful you will be. Could you share that a little bit with like some of the people that are probably listening that are, an NMCA racer or a PDRA racer? How valuable, and how life-changing has the visibility that you guys have now like your audiences on social media alone? How different are things now than they were 10 years ago?
You're right. It's everything. You're nobody if nobody's hearing your message, right? Like, think about high school. Think about who the popular kids were in the high school. And it's the kids that talk the most. The quiet kid was never popular, right? The quiet kid had to do something remarkable to get popularity. You had to be a football player. You had to be a cheerleader. You had to be in drama. You had to be on stage. You had to be a singer. At its simplest form in high school, just look at that and scale it. So scale it. We're here now. Well, who are the ones that are the most famous? The ones that'll put themselves out there, the ones that'll have something to say, the ones that are the athletes, the singers, no different. I learned a long time ago listening to Rob Dyrdek, who, the skateboarder, Fantasy Factory and all that stuff. He said,
smart guy too,
really intelligent. And as an entrepreneur, he said, without some form of media, give it newspaper, magazine, television, social. Without that, you're nobody. If you want to be somebody, even the people that had a product to sell that didn't want to be famous bought infomercial time, right? They didn't want to be on it. They didn't want a television show. They didn't want to be a movie star, but they had a product to sell. So they got an infomercial. Without that, without QVC, without putting yourself out there, you have nothing. How do they hear about you? Even now.
Have you guys kind of coached up some of your other co-stars on the show about putting yourself out there and some things to do? I know it needs to be authentic, and sometimes it's just not there, like you said earlier. But you guys, to me, we get frustrated a lot of times because so many of these racers say, I don't need to market myself. I don't need to promote because my on-track performance speaks for itself. Sure. Whereas you guys are kind of the opposite, right? I mean, you guys drive a truck. So it's like we got something else that we need to put out there. And it's more about your personality versus how fast your car is. We saw comments that said, why don't these guys build a no prep Kings car? But that's just like completely against your kind of ethos of what you guys have done. And you guys are more about, your show that we're going to talk about here in a minute is about you guys.
Nova.
Yeah, well, right. The Mordor, besides the Mordor Nova.
Sometime, man.
You know what I mean, though? It's about the show's about you guys. It's about your personality, not how quick and how fast your car is, which I think so many people get caught up in.
Yeah, you mentioned have we coached? The show has taken off so fast, and it's been such a whirlwind. We're still trying to figure out what's going on, which we started filming February 1st of 2013. So this February will be 10 years that we've been doing it.
That's crazy.
And it has been a whirlwind, we're all so busy doing our own thing that we don't ever get to sit down and hang out with those guys. Right. We used to meet for pizza once a week at lunch and, up at this burger joint. We don't get to do that anymore just because of our lives have taken off, gone in different directions. And, And
I don't think that they require all that much coaching. They understand what this wave that we're all riding on, right? But there's a difference between using the leverage for this to expand your ideas, your potentialities, your business, or just feeding your ego, right? And so some of these guys just want to feed their ego, and that's fine. You can do that. You can be famous for being famous and go out there and get on the microphone and, hey, get another episode. Awesome. You got another story to tell at the bar. Or you can give people a message, get something that people can bring home with them, that they can expand on. Say, hey, maybe I can apply that to my life. You got to give things that are applicable. You can just be funny. You can just be entertaining. You can just be a badass. You can do all these things, but there's no sense of sustainability, in my opinion, with that. You need to add value to what you're saying, or people will stop listening once the curtains draw.
We've always said, if we're going to be successful, we need to wish success for everyone around us and try to help all those people be successful, because in return, they're going to help you. And if everyone was to do that, we'd all be a lot more successful, rather than being jealous of someone, putting someone down for whatever reason, whether it's funny or a joke or whatever. We want to help everyone, especially all the street outlaws in our circle. We'll do anything for those guys to help them be successful, because in return, we know that we'll be successful.
I talk about that a lot. It's a scarcity mindset that a lot of times kind of permeates drag racing. I mean, I think it permeates all of society, but our sport is very, very, everybody's, what's the word? Really protective, right? Like, this is mine. This is my little corner of the sport.
That's right. Yeah.
And everybody wants to hold on to it. And we do. We preach that all the time. Like, a high tide lifts all boats. Like, what's good for street outlaws is good for drag racing. It's good for NHRA. Right, What's good for NHRA is good for street outlaws. And I think if our sport, and honestly, you've kind of got me halfway inspired, gosh darn it. And I've had goosebumps for like 7 minutes solid. But I mean, it's that's what we want to do. Like, that's my life goal, is to galvanize our sport. When we introduced Drag Illustrated in the fall of 2005, like, our whole goal was to remove all these barriers and boundaries. We wanted anybody, like, my little saying was always like, if you've rolled through the water and lit those bulbs, you're my kind of guy. I don't care if it's a super comp car or a farm truck or a pro mod or a top. I love all of y'all. And I think that we can accomplish a lot together. But it's this segmentation that exists in our sport. I mean, and we even see it, like, as much as the NHRA, everybody loves to bash on the NHRA, but as much as they have largely been resistant to the no prep and like the initially the illegal street racing or the portrayal of illegal street racing on street outlaws, I think there's been kind of a counter to that, is that I don't know that the no prep king guys, they're certainly not receptive to any of the NHRA people really showing up over there, because everybody gets a little standoffish, right?
Maybe, yeah, I can see that.
And so it is an interesting thing, but I do think that when I think about, I believe drag racing is the great American motorsport. I really do. Like, everybody can relate. I mean, it's not NASCAR. It's certainly not Formula One or IndyCar. Anybody, every man, woman, young, old, every race, creed, and color can respect pulling up to a stoplight.
Yeah.
Looking over, not today, right? I mean, everybody's had that moment. Or like, my grandma still to this day gets a kick out of whipping out, she calls it kicking it down and passing people. She still gets a kick out of it, right? She's 83, but I mean, it's like, everybody understands a speed contest, right? I'm going to race you from here to there. First one there wins.
That's
and for where our sport is at, I mean, we're not on. I was watching SportsCenter this morning, working out, riding my wife's Peloton, watching SportsCenter. I didn't see any drag racing. Right. I saw a bunch of NASCAR shit, and I saw all sorts of football, baseball, basketball, and all that. But I get frustrated because I think our sport deserves better. And that's why I'm so proud of you guys, so proud of what everyone in that world has accomplished, because really, you're the tip of the sword right now. Right. I mean, you're the tip of the sword, and we need to be swinging that son of a gun around like crazy. So anyways, we'll get off of the soapbox of motivational speak here. But I'm curious. Jeff Hub Brown says drag racing version of male cheerleaders. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it, man.
Anything.
I'll take it. I shaved to look like a cheerleader. No, I'm just joking. But have you ever thought about that? Because I think that's a valid question. I think about the brand and the following that you have. And clearly you're both capable of driving fast cars. I mean, has there ever been an aspiration of like, you know what? I want to try Ryan Martin on for size. Let's call Bickle and build a promo. You know what I mean? Like, and because I'm sure there are people that would happily support that endeavor. Has that ever, kind of crossed your mind, or is it too far from the brand?
We're going to stay in our lane and let the fast guys be the fast guys. Yeah. And, we're the goofy guys, and we're happy where we're at.
Yeah. We're not the average Joes that never got their shot. It'd be different if we were the average Joe that was really, really good at drag racing. But that's those other guys. It's the Daddy Dave. Those are the average Joes that got their shot, and they're doing it, right? Yeah. They look at us and they're saying, oh, Farmtruck and Asian have the potential. Yeah, but we don't have the mindset. We don't have that killer instinct. We don't have that. You have to be born with that. And the Ryan Martin, he's an outlier. You take the bottom, like with any scientific experiment, you got to take the outliers. You got to take the top, you got to take the bottom, remove them. Now you have the average. Now you have the scope. So we are the bottom outlier. Remove us. Ryan Martin is the top outlier. Remove him. Now you have the middle pool. Could we compete? Could we build something? Maybe, right? Like we never really put much thought into that, but yeah, we enjoy watching those guys make themselves successful as much as everybody else. And as long as we can continue to do what we do, we will stay in our lane.
It's cool to hear, because I think that maybe there are people out there that think that they have to have a Top Fuel car to develop any sort of following or feel like they're doing something significant. And it's absolutely not the case. And I think that's one of my favorite things about the Farmtruck is that is a relatively, I mean, I don't know if it still has a conventional headed big block Chevy in it, but it did, right? I mean, that's an attainable thing. Like a guy could see you guys on television and go, you know what? I'm going to get together with my buddies and we're going to go partners on a pump gas 632 or whatever, 565. And we're going to put it in Jimmy's IROC. I mean, that is an attainable thing. Yes. And thank God there are people such as yourselves that are, I think that's part of the allure to all of Street Outlaws, at least initially. Chuck's out there with like a back half Mustang, you know what I mean? That's got a different colored door on it. And that's
kind of the
something,
Frankenstein approach.
Yeah,
which I think
people see that and they go, hey,
yeah,
I could maybe do that.
Right.
That's
right.
I'm partway there.
That's your new show
right
too,
now.
right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're thinking, right?
Yeah,
it is.
And your new show is kind of based around that mentality too, with the Frankenstein mentality. So talk to us about the new show that's launching.
Well, it's going to be January 10th. It's 8 episodes. It's 8 different builds on Discovery Channel. It's going to be something that it's within our wheelhouse, but not something that people have normally seen. So they've given us an opportunity to be us, to build 8 separate unique vehicles and capture them for the captive audience we already have. And hey, we're kind of putting ourselves out there, right? Because it's not a lot of drag racing. It's not a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to speed. We are building unique vehicles, one-off, that we're attempting to make quick.
And it's about watching you guys build.
Yes.
That's what, again, back to the personality and your interaction with each other and the way you guys approach everything and have fun while you're doing it and goof off and maybe do something that is dangerous that, against your better judgment. I think that's really the draw to it, which is kind of what we're talking about.
They'll love it,
Yeah.
Well, it is unusual builds. And we just hope people like the show because there's kind of nothing like it, the unusual builds that we did are so unusual that it's out there. And the cool thing is it came from our heads, and we've always done and built what we wanted to do. We were, never steered in different directions by producers and stuff like that on things that we didn't really want to do. So it was a total honor to get the opportunity to do this. And I don't know what you were saying earlier, you kind of you have second thoughts about yourself and whether people are going to like the show or not. At this point, it is what it is. It's going to come out on Monday.
I tell my guy the ball's in the air, right?
Yeah,
the ball's in the air.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Is there a chance we're going to get a nitrous chair 2.0? Because that's still the funniest thing I think I have ever seen in my life. I still pull that up every now and then. I just can't even stop laughing. Take us through that.
Talking about
Asian doesn't remember.
What is he talking about?
No, that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Do we have that?
Yeah, I have it here. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It scared the living shit out of me. I was genuinely concerned.
No. When I pulled that string on that valve.
Did you feel bad? It looked like instant regret.
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't know what I was looking at because I was looking at Asian. I turned my head and I pulled this string and I turned back around and there was a blurry blob of something moving.
It looked like a rag doll. It didn't even look real.
I thought I killed him. And, I immediately thought, if he's dead, there's no way that I will be able to recover.
Or me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
no.
either.
Or you, yeah, you're
No. You know,
Instead
It
of
was so
Tiger
funny.
King financially, but I will never emotionally recover from
He
it.
would,
The best-
he'd be rich off the lawsuit. Though. He would be having so much money.
Yeah.
The best
no.
part was, I mean, you could see how genuine you were when you're kneeling down and you say, "How do I apologize to my best friend?" And you say, "You get a new best friend."
It's true.
And that's exactly the way that it went down.
Yeah, it was an
Oh,
accident.
man.
Purely.
Dude, that was wild.
I'm
But they're
curious,
all
like,
moments.
as this whole thing has unfolded and all those crazy antics, Mordor, Nova, did they peg you guys? Like, did Pilgrim Studios, Sam Corcus, all those guys, did they peg you like immediately? Like, okay, these two, they've got it. Did
No.
you feel no? Did you
No.
kind of have to fight for your space on the show,
We're
or
still trying to convince them that we're
Yeah, we're worth it.
capable of doing something.
Sign our contract. Guys, we need another contract. No, Sam set everybody down, and had a one-on-one meeting with them and said, hey, this will either be the greatest thing ever or be the worst thing ever for you. You will either be a star or you won't. He had the same conversation with everybody.
Wow.
He said, whoever is most interesting this week is going to be on TV, and whoever is not interesting will not be on TV. So we thought, okay, let's be interesting. Asian, sit in this chair.
Yeah.
I mean, and it seems to have paid off, right?
Yeah. So they didn't really segment anybody. They didn't say, oh, Chuck's going to be this or Murder's going to be this or Chief. The only one probably was Chief, but even Chief carved himself into that role, right? So he didn't, Sam was willing, and I think any production company is willing to let things just go the way they're going to go, and they'll pick it apart, and then they will edit and then highlight the areas that individuals have shown themselves to be.
But there were no promises made by the production company of who was going to do this or who was going to do that. There were predictions. We knew that Chief was going to be great because Big Chief is a natural storyteller. And he could tell us the details of a race that happened 20 years ago and have us all cracking up laughing. And it's unbelievable, that how his mind works and the way that he can tell a story. So we knew that he was going to be great. We just weren't sure about us. We know that all of them had good personalities and they were all going to be okay. But, us, I knew Asian was going to be all right because he's got jokes,
He's got jokes. I like that. Asian's got jokes. What do you, whenever you guys look at, I saw you, I believe, you guys were at the Motorplex. Do you guys go to all of the No Prep King events?
No.
Kind of hit and miss, or?
Yeah, it's again, we've stayed in our lane with that deal. You
brought the prison bus. I remember the prison bus.
That's right.
We did.
Did you ride the prison bus?
I didn't, but I would love to. So just say when.
That's such a big that event has blown up beyond us. It's almost it's outgrown us, right, to that degree, to where we don't know where we fit into that. And maybe down the road, if there's a lane for us to exist in, but the racing takes up so much. It takes so much of the time to film those races, to put the races on. What are we going to do? We can't do our stuff on that track. We'll mess up the surface, right? Even the prison bus had an opportunity to do, right? So what we do needs to be in the pits? Well, what are we going to do in the pits?
Yeah.
So we could show up and just be a spectator, but at the moment, there's not enough time to carve a spot into that event for a sideshow, right?
Right. I understand.
And so, hey, we love No Prep Kings. It's something that we do want to attend, but we just don't know where we fit in yet.
Right. Whenever you look at that scene right now, and I'm sure you follow it, a lot of your, brethren from the 405 are prominent in that world. Do you see it feels like that show kind of took on, I mean, you nailed it. It like leveled up. Something happened. I don't know if that's just like TV magic or what, but something happened. I mean, it went from being this also ran type of thing, and it wasn't the real show, whereas now it is a legit high level, the highest of levels, perhaps, maybe form of drag racing. So when you look at that scene, do you see any, I mean, obviously Ryan Martin comes to mind, Murder Nova's over there now, but besides the obvious choices, have you guys noticed, or do you guys see anybody like on the horizon that maybe has some of that Big Chief storytelling ability, or some people that you think are stars in the making?
Well, Chief's an outlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
it's difficult.
He's that top.
He
That's
is.
right.
He is the top. Swanstrom is going to be given the opportunity to make the best of himself, right? I'm sure Sam is going to give him the opportunity. Justin Swanstrom is going to give himself the opportunity. The sustainability is what gets people, right?
Wow.
A lot of people come and go. It's really hard to maintain a heightened level of who you are for a long period of time if that's not who you are. And so
True.
I think a lot of people get exposed as far as, hey, where did they go? Well, they tried and they attempted to exaggerate themselves for too long, and it hurt them, and you begin to lose who you really are and who you want to be. So only time will tell who can sustain it. Ryan Martin, if he keeps taking W's and chopping off heads, a winner will always receive a seat, right? There's a lot of people in the UFC that can't even speak English, but they keep winning, right?
Yep.
And so you got to keep winning, or you got to be a personality. And if you can't do either one of those, then you're just a contender. Right.
Also, you mentioned about the show when it first started, that it was just a show. Much like Street Outlaws in the beginning, we had to learn how to do it their way, and they had to learn how to do it our way. So I think both of the shows have taken the same path,
Wow.
and then they turned a corner, and then they became a decent TV show. And I think No Prep Kings was no different. They learned how to make the show. And all the racers learned how to do it, and that's when they turned a corner, because it is a good show.
It really is. I mean, that's what we launched this. I had like kind of a crazy idea. I'm a big UFC fan. I'm glad to hear you kind of reference them. Normally it's only me on here talking about them, but it's really, I'm not even into I appreciate the art form. I appreciate the competition, right? The sport,
Sure.
but I love the presentation. Like
I
love the way they do business, and I love the way that this thing has exploded.
The hype.
The hype of
I
it.
love the hype too. Right?
Yes, they do a great job. Like, I'm probably a bigger fan of the UFC president, Dana White, than any fighter, just because I appreciate the grind and the effort to promote the sport and promote their stars. I love that.
Well, that's the way F1 is too. I mean, we've seen that on that
Yes,
Netflix show. It's all about the pre-race build up, the rivalry between Hamilton and Verstappen this year. I mean, but then, the on-track product is a little bit lackluster sometimes.
Right.
And
I mean, that
working to
same can be
address
said
that.
for UFC. I've watched many UFC pay-per-views through my $59.99 down. And been like, wow, I probably could have done anything and it would have been more exciting than that. But it was worth it, like, to see the end result of all the prior buildup. But in that world, Joe Rogan and Brennan Schaub and a handful of guys are doing these like ride along. Well, we called ours the Drag Illustrated ride along. I think they call theirs Fight Companion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, where they'll watch the UFC fight with a group of their buddies or whatever. They don't show it, but they discuss it as it's happening. Right. So I thought, you know what? We need to bring that to our sport somehow. We can't really do it during an NHRA event because they're like 8 hours long, So what could we do? Street Outlaws. No Prep Kings was kind of coming on the scene. So we launched this Monday night show where we would just literally get together, the three of us, and bring in a new guest every week and just shoot the shit for 2 hours while we watched the show. And the reason I brought it up is a little bit self-serving at this point, but you're right, Farmtruck. It's a great I mean, it's a really good TV show. They do a great job of it. I mean, I'm interested from start to finish, and I think they've done a fantastic job of building all these characters, letting us know a little bit about them, still keeping a fairly sharp focus on the racing, but all the drama and all the antics, they've done a fantastic job. And I think you're right. They've created great TV.
Right. And to your point, Farmtruck, they've learned how to do it. Sam has even told us that he didn't even know what a pro mod was when they started doing that show. And the competition level has risen so high as well. If you go back and watch season 1 or season 2, and then you see how quick these cars are going now in season 4 and the level of competition and the names that are out there, to your point, they have learned how to adapt to the no prep track. And then Pilgrim has also learned what works and what doesn't work when presenting that on TV. So
that's right.
You're exactly right on that.
Sam Corcus is the brains behind Street Outlaws. He was the brains behind American Chopper. There's just something about his genius that he knows how to turn a bunch of regular guys
Mhm.
into interesting characters.
Yeah.
And it's all Sam Corcus, man. He's done it.
And I think that maybe Wes already knows Pilgrim Studios. They put on Ultimate Fighter. They run Ultimate Fighter, and actually Craig Pelagian owned a percentage of UFC.
Oh, wow.
So they know how to do it right after watching UFC. And if you look at UFC, you can compare. There's a bit of a comparison. You take boxing.
I agree.
There's boxing and UFC. They're two separate things. There's a street fight where all goes and no holds bar, and then there's just boxing. There's political, there's the donkey, there's the agents that want to make themselves famous. There's but you have to, then it's 12 rounds, like you said, 8 hours of NHRA. 12 rounds is I'm not watching 12 rounds of boxing. Right. So UFC carved themselves a spot and said, hey, how about 3 rounds? How about short 5-minute 3 rounds with a 25-minute main event, right? And so they did it. UFC carved a spot with the short attention span of human beings and said, just show us the bloodiest crap you can show us at first, and then we'll deal with the rest, right? And that's so what true. They did. And so kind of No Prep Kings did the same thing with Street Out. I said, just give us the mess. Just throw it all in a pile. We'll figure out what we like or not, right? And they did. They did exactly that. And so now begins the evolution of picking out the cherry picking, the depreciating returns of what people like, and just showing them that, and leaving the fluff on the side.
Wow. That's incredible insight from you guys. We really appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for taking the time. I'm curious, do you guys, what's it like going home? I mean, I imagine, I don't know, I think I speak on behalf of almost every drag racer that we've had all these people around us, loved ones, friends, family, think we're idiots for pursuing this insane hobby, right? I mean, I tell people all the time, like my go-to joke is like, I watched my dad burn up a marriage and a bank account, right? Chasing the drag racing dream,
Right.
And that's a story that many of us can relate to, right? It's late nights, early mornings, long drives, big time investment of time, energy, money. For all the people that like watch you guys on the come up, be car guys and have that interest, what's it like going to Christmas or seeing friends and family at this point in time? I mean, is it a bunch of attaboys and pats on the back, or what's the reaction been like by your loved ones?
Well, I don't know. We really haven't changed at all.
Yeah.
And our families are used to us. Being us. And, we'd walk into the Christmas party 20 years ago. We still had the jokes, and
but we were still idiots. They still thought we were stupid.
Sure.
So you're right.
So we really haven't changed much to our families. Does that answer your question?
But
do they appreciate? I mean, I have to believe. I mean, honestly, I don't know you guys that well. Known you for a hot minute, but I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting back going, and I mean, and what's that reaction been like in the feedback? Because I mean, you guys gotta. I mean, it's incredible what you've accomplished. I can't imagine like you're a young man, Asian, like being your dad, right, or something like that. There's got to be some really proud people in your corner right now.
Yeah, that does help. It helps. After you do this a while, though, you realize that you're doing it because it's all you know how to do. And you take the good and the bad and you throw those out, too. If someone says you suck, you throw that out. If someone says you're amazing, you throw that out. Right. You just can't take those home with you. And so even the family members, I like the word proud. That they say they're proud, that encapsulates so much, right?
Yeah.
And that is enough for us to hear somebody say that they're proud of us. But their reaction to whether we're doing, we're risking our lives or we're being a little too edgy, all of that means nothing, because from our perspective, you guys as well, you're like, well, why don't you take a little more risk? Why don't you have a little more courage? Dad, why don't you go start that business you wanted to start? Mom, why don't you go do that baking contest? Why don't you guys take a little bit more risk? And maybe I can take a little less, but there's never a compromise, right? It's always going to be the way it is. And so, all we can ask is for them to be proud of us because we've put effort into something that we thought we saw a future in.
And the truth is we don't have to ask because they're very proud. They're proud of our accomplishments. I mean, reality shows most of the time they don't make it out of their first season.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to do it for 10 years, we never thought we were going to make it out of our first season.
Yeah.
We thought they were going to cancel the whole deal. But
maybe
here we are.
Maybe it just depends who you are too, right? If you're a narcissist, how's Christmas? Well, if they didn't talk about you, it's bad, right? Like maybe you're not an artist, maybe you're the opposite end of the spectrum, and you don't want anybody to talk to you, right? So we kind of fall somewhere in the middle probably, and it's great to hear that people are watching your accolades, but it's also we also want to kind of mitigate two highs and two lows. So we have a good mix of family members and peers that support us, and we're equally as interested in hearing about what they're doing too.
Yeah. And it goes back to that authenticity, like being some good old boys, right? Being some good guys that I think it's easy for everyone to cheer you on at this stage in the game. So now you have your own show. I saw somebody else talking about this online recently, but I mean, if you, I don't know who, AT&T, I think is who my television is, but like the only thing on that line for like hours and hours and hours at a time on that Discovery Channel line is Street Outlaws something.
Okay, sure, that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's clearly a cornerstone piece of the puzzle. I mean, and I'm just curious, what do you guys think that says about car culture, right? We're in a time where electric cars are on the horizon, or they're here, and it's an ever-growing thing.
Yeah.
There's been big movements in the past towards going green, and I do think at different points in time, I remember reading an article on like jalopnik.com about the love affair with cars kind of fading. I think they polled like 1,000 people in 2005 and asked them, do you have a special relationship with your car? Does it have a name? Do you wash it regularly? Do you vacuum the carpet? And like 65% of people said, yeah. Okay. Right. I mean, like, yeah, my car is named Wilma, and I have a friend who details it, and every Sunday I clean it out. And they compared that to another survey 10 years later, and that number had went down significantly. Okay. And they were trying to make an argument that people don't have the same relationship with their automobile that they used to.
Could be true.
And that may be true. I'm not sure. But I'm just curious, what's your take on it would appear to me that television production companies can't get enough car shit. Like, if you'll work on a car, we'll put you on TV. I mean, car. Netflix has automotive programming.
Yeah.
Discovery, Motor Trend. There's more of this stuff. I'm a pretty hardcore. I can't watch it all. What do you think that says about car culture here in America in 2022?
Oh man, I it's easy for me to sit here and say that, you ain't never going to mess up the, the red, white, these colors don't run, right? Like it's easy to say that, right? All the while they're making more electric cars than they are gasoline right now, right? Like, so, I don't think it's going anywhere because, for one, you're right, the television network, but we also have to be completely conscientious that the television network hits a different demographic. 25 years and younger, they're not watching television. They're watching their mobile device, and I doubt that they're paying the $6 a month for the streaming on Discovery. We wish they would, but they just don't. It's not how they do it. So what's happening now is YouTube as well. This is on YouTube. This is live. We are seeing that we are educating an audience that didn't know any of this existed. So we are captivating an audience that already existed through television, giving them more they want. All the while, we are kind of streaming this side world, this automotive world, this motorsports hustle to an audience. There's a 16-year-old turning 16 every day. Every day there's a 16-year-old, right? And he's just learning about a car. He or she's learning about a car. And they're learning, oh, this is me. This could be an extension of my personality. So as the population in the world grows, so will the motorsports world. As long as they keep making cars and there's still a way to move forward, it'll just keep growing. It'll keep getting bigger.
Speaking of which, I spoke to Lou about this a little bit this morning. YouTube is something that you guys have dived headfirst into, very active on YouTube, creating content all the time. Let's talk about that a little bit, because honestly, I've said this to NHRA level drag racers, like all drag racers of all walks of life, for many, many moons now, that you can't wait on Discovery Channel. You can't wait on Pilgrim. You can't wait on Fox Sports to shove a camera in your face, because if you wait, I mean, you're going to have to, like, to your point earlier, you're going to have to be pretty damn good at what you do. You're going to have to be pretty damn interesting for them to come to you. That's right. So, but in this day and age, I mean, I've got an HD camera in my pocket, right? With my wallet glued to it right now. I mean, everybody has the ability. The tools are so readily available. Take us through that kind of perspective of turning the camera around and pointing it at yourselves. I preach it to people all the time. You can't wait, for the next Street Outlaws to come along. You got to do it yourself.
They won't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. They won't. They'll never do it. Take whatever's happening right now and scale the people that won't even show up for work. They won't. It takes a level of discipline to grind it to a fine powder for years, for 5-10 years. How long did you grind? How many? You could inspire everybody to go start a magazine. You could do that. You could do the greatest job of trying to hustle this, turn it into the next multi-level marketing scheme. No one's going to do it. No one will do it because they're scared, or because they talk themselves out of it, or maybe they're just, their life doesn't form it. Maybe they got 8 kids, maybe they got health issues. They're just not going to do it. But really what it lacks is discipline. It lacks discipline. Say, this week we got to talk about this.
But it's also very difficult to do. How many times have someone jammed a camera in your face and say hi to the camera, birthday boy?
Yeah.
So there's a huge learning curve there, you know, and you have to get past hearing your voice. You have to get past seeing yourself.
Yeah, you do.
And if you can get past that, anyone can do it.
And that's a talent. That's not something you're born with at all. That is a talent that you have to learn as a human being, and then try to forget that you look weird or sound weird, or, hey, we're not symmetrical, or the camera flips yourself and now you look different for some reason. Right. And then editing. Oh, it's such a cringy process of editing and watching yourself over and over and over again. No one's going to do it. So to go back to your point, Wes, what do we do to inspire those? Those that will, and those that don't won't. Right.
That's a good point.
It's so true. I mean, and it's tough because you want everyone. And I know that, I think that in this day and age of YouTube and everything, somebody in the comments a second ago said that, there's many YouTubers that are like the biggest celebrities in the world. Yeah. So, and if I think, these are high times, I mean, this is a heady time for anybody who's got a unique perspective. I mean, if you've got a unique perspective, if you've got something to say, the tools exist, the platforms exist, you could probably turn it into something, right? But you're right. Most people won't do it. Most people will not.
It comes down to discipline. I mean, it's like that for being self-employed, starting a business, doing a video, even doing the show. I mean, it takes discipline to do it repeatedly, and for you guys to even show up to filming and be able to do your thing each and every repeatable episode. That's a skill, like you said. And so it really does. Self-discipline. I think this is something that a lot of people have learned through the pandemic, when all the work from home started. How ill prepared they are on the self-discipline front, because these companies, the productivity went way down. Everyone's still debating, are we going back to the office, or are we staying home? And really to work from home and to be self-employed, or to start a business or be your own boss, it's all about self-discipline. So
it's true.
It's a great point.
Even Mike Tyson's quote is, if you don't got discipline, you ain't nothing. And it's true. What are you every day?
Leave it to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right? Like he knows better than anybody what discipline will get you. And he was a nobody with no education off the streets, and a guy he didn't even know pulled him in. The only thing that guy gave him was discipline. It's all he gave him. He said, do this every single day, and I promise you, you'll be heavyweight champion of the world. And he did it. He said, okay, I'll do it. And he did it every single day, not knowing how to even throw a punch, scared of the world. Right? Discipline got Mike Tyson to the very peak of where he needed to be, being the smallest heavyweight, being the shortest guy, being the scaredest out of all of them. And so I think that it's I think discipline's it. If you have discipline, you can suck at anything and get good at it.
I agree, man.
So
Joe
true.
Rogan has a great quote about, if I waited until I felt good or felt like working out, I'd be a fat slob, because I never feel like doing it. You never feel like doing it.
See you guys later.
But it's very interesting, right? I mean, it's like you cannot, and I've struggled with it myself. Like, oh man, do I really want to do the show today? Like, I don't know if I've got anything to say, but we have to do it. I mean, you have to exercise the discipline, and it'll work out, or it won't, whatever. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? It will or it won't, and it'll be great or it'll be horrible or somewhere in between, and we'll live with the consequences. But it's a really interesting thing, man. Well, we've had you guys here for almost an hour. Again, on behalf of everybody here at Drag Illustrated and all of our everybody watching, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Kind of closing notes. We touched on the YouTube thing, but what's we talked to Asian, you talked about Farmtruck being like the big picture guy. What is the vision, right? When you guys look forward, you have your own show. I mean, I'm sure part of the vision is to just keep doing it, and maybe and get another season and whatnot. But when you look at the whole grand scheme of things, what is the farm truck and Asian vision for the future? What do you guys have left to accomplish?
To be completely honest, we haven't unlocked that yet.
Yeah, I get it.
We struggle with it every day. Every day is constantly talking to it. Just yesterday, we were like, what are we doing? Right? Every day, even though we do what we do every day with our discipline, we still don't know where this is leading. And we think that there's big things on the horizon for us, and we don't know what that is. And so I think that there's a level of being okay with the unknown and just keeping up with the discipline, doing it every day, saying we're going to do it tomorrow, scheduling things in, failing, trying something new. I think that once you've ridden such a long high on such a, the television show, the touring with No Prep Kings, you come down from that and you really have to take a look at yourself and figure out what you want to do. And we're doing that now. We're doing that now. There's this new show is going to air. We're going to figure out how the world sees us through this show, because the editing has been done the way it's going to do. And with our YouTube channel, we kind of get to show a little bit more behind the scenes. I think there's a message that we still have yet to be able to give to the world, and we don't even know that yet. So there's a big unknown for us, and we don't know what that looks like, but we're going to keep moving forward, keep on trucking, and we're going to do what we do until that clicks. But that click hasn't happened for us yet, but Wes. But
we still have a lot of ideas on the horizon.
We do.
We have an idea on how to get kids involved in racing in a low budget way. And it's just an idea right now, but we're going to put some energy into that and see if we can't get some kids racing.
No, I got to tell you that is an inspiring message in itself, because I think there's a whole lot of people out there in the world that really don't know what's next necessarily. Like, maybe you're in the midst of a good moment, maybe you're in the midst of a bad one, but you don't know what the next thing is or where this ultimately ends up. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the process so far, I wrote this down, February 13th, 2013, you guys started filming, seeing where this has gone has been incredible. We are so happy for you and so proud of you. And we thank you guys genuinely. I mean, I mean it. Thank you for what you guys have done for the sport of drag racing. This is drag race. The only thing I love more than drag racing, my wife and kids. This sport is all I've ever done. And seeing what you guys have done for us and for our community means the world to me. I hope you keep it up. And I can't wait to see you unlock that, because I'm sure it's going to be badass, man. Thank you guys. Mike, JT, let's give it up for these guys. Thank you so much. An hour. Holy crap.
Thank you.
Seriously. Thank you so much for joining us. Lou, if you're still watching, thanks for helping set this up. Let's get together again soon, man. You guys are, no surprise. You're fantastic doing this type of thing. I mean, holy crap. I could talk to you guys for like 3 days.
New show next week, right? Tell us it one more time.
New show next week.
New show. It's going to be January 10th. It's going to Discovery Channel Monday. It'll be on for 8 times. So you can't get rid of us at least for a couple months.
That's right.
Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.